This is the Hard Thing Podcast. Today we are overcoming average. Welcome back to another episode of the Hard Thing Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Lewis, and this is the podcast designed to help you overcome whatever trial, obstacle, or challenge you have in your life or you've brought into your life, so that way you can also overcome whatever else is coming down the line. This goes for losing weight, earning more money, being a better leader in your work, family, or other organization. Whatever it is, we're here to help you and give you actionable ways to deal with your challenge. So today we have an awesome guest, but before we get to that, a couple of announcements. First thing, if you are interested in sponsoring the show, you can reach out to me on Instagram at the Hard Thing Podcast. Send me a quick message or comment on any of our posts. I'd love to hear from you. Also, I'd like to invite you guys to our Instagram so that way you do see bonus content we put out. Go ahead and follow us. Again, it's at the Hard Thing Podcast. Next, I'd like to invite you guys to go sign up for our bulletin, our email bulletin. We'll send it out periodically, probably every month. All you got to do is go to thehardthingpodcast.com, go to the bottom, sign up. You'll get bonus content, discounts on merchandise, as well as personal challenges given from me to you to hopefully improve your life. Next thing I'd like to invite you guys to do is to go to OURrescue.org and get involved with my favorite nonprofit organization, Operation Underground Railroad. They go undercover to rescue kids from sex trafficking, and it's an amazing organization because they put their lives at risk to save children who have no hope otherwise. Who can't get behind that? So go to OURrescue.org, donate your time, your effort, your intentions, your interests, and your attention, as well as some money, obviously. But honestly, the biggest thing they need right now is just people getting the word out. So go to OURrescue.org and just get to know what the problem is. Now, let me tell you about today's guest. Today I have the awesome opportunity to speak with recent author Matt Doherty. He is also the former head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels as well as Notre Dame. He's a very awesome person, and we talk a lot about all sorts of things. We talk about addiction, we talk about leadership, discipline, and just being able to listen to people who are telling you the truth. So, without further ado, go ahead and listen up to my conversation with Matt Doherty. All right. Well, thank you for coming on the Hard Thing Podcast, Matt. I am excited to have you here and talk about your story.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, like I said, let's hop in with the question that I ask every single guest. Matt, what's the hardest thing you've ever done?
Oh, man. There's been a few now. The hardest thing I've ever done. Breaking up with my girlfriend from high school. That was tough. I haven't told many people this, but I'm an alcoholic. I gave up alcohol in 1980. It's been over 30 years. So I hadn't had a drink in over 30 years. So coming to that realization wasn't easy. That was hard. I think it was like I was 26 about. So 1988, maybe 1989. Running a 5-minute mile my freshman year. That was hard. Saying goodbye to my Notre Dame team to take the North Carolina job, hard. Getting fired at North Carolina, my alma mater, going through that, dealing with that for the last 20 years, hard. So I think those are, I didn't give you one. Getting cut by the NBA, the Cleveland Cavaliers, hard. So, I had a couple things there. So I don't know if I'd rank one harder than the other, but those are the things that come to mind.
Right. What I find talking to people who have, people that we generally classify as successful or, that we look up to, things like that, they generally do have this longer list of hard things. I was with my wife's family one night, and her youngest brother just graduated high school, and he's kind of going through the phase that I assume we've all been through, where you're somewhat lost in life, and a family friend basically asked him, like, what are you most proud of in your life? And I think this list probably, maybe not necessarily mirrors kind of a similar question, but I bet you also have a list of things that you're really proud of, running that 5-minute mile, being at Notre Dame in the first place, also being at North Carolina, things like that.
Yeah, no, that thing I'm most proud of, and I've never told anybody until recently. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, you win a national championship, but giving up alcohol, and not having a drink for over 30 years, like, besides having 2 beautiful kids, because without doing that, the other stuff doesn't happen. Without me, I gave up drinking. 11 years later, I became the head coach at Notre Dame. And that doesn't happen if I didn't give up drinking.
Wow. You're not the first alcoholic. You're not the first.
I'm not. Whoa.
No.
I want to be first on something on your show, Justin.
Well, you are the first coach I think I've had, as far as sports coach. I've had life coaches, things like that, but you're the actual first sports coach.
Okay. All right. Good. I'm glad I'm first, but I'm a little disappointed I'm not the first alcoholic. But you know what? Alcohol, I just went to my 40th high school reunion. We had to have it in year 41 because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the content centered around alcohol and alcoholism. And several of my classmates have achieved sobriety. And it was kind of a cool thing, for this to be a topic, after the laughs and the hugging and the stories, to get real with your classmates that you hadn't seen some in 40 years, to be able to talk like that, pretty powerful. And I think that, alcohol, ism is, I mean, again, I'm an alcoholic. I hadn't had a drink in over 30 years, but I'm still an alcoholic. And I just felt really dirty when I first realized I was, and wasn't sure how I was going to deal with it. And because you think your friends are tied to it, or your job's tied to it. And I'm like, man, if your friends are tied to the fact that you got to drink, then you got to find new friends. You got to find new friends or a new job. And so to realize the negative impact alcohol's had on so many people and generations, and if you could overcome that, it's really freeing. Boy, it's freeing.
Yeah, I believe it. I personally don't drink, but if it's okay, I'd like to kind of dig into that, because what you said about, if you hadn't quit alcohol, you wouldn't be basically where you are today. I think that's true, not just in the sense of alcohol would have stopped you or maybe cut off some possibilities, but I think you probably grew some emotional, psychological, maybe even spiritual, even physical muscles that allowed you to carry out other disciplined acts, if that makes sense. So tell us a little bit more about how you did achieve sobriety, if that's possible.
Well, I think you have to hit, with a lot of things in life, you have to hit a low point. And I was 26-ish, living in New York City, and, working on Wall Street. And I mean, New York City doesn't sleep. And, I'm good. Like, I'm competitive. And like, if I'm competitive, so I'm a competitive drinker. Like, oh yeah, you think you can drink whatever? I'll drink that. And so it was competitive for me too. And, a buddy of mine said a line of, one's too many and 100's not enough. And so, like, I knew, that it was starting to become a little bit of an issue. And then I remember waking up at the beach in Jersey, on a porch of a home that I did not know. And I didn't, back then there's no cell phones, and I got up, open the door, try to open the door, didn't know whose house it was. And I remember just starting to walk down the street, just waiting to try to figure out where I was and how was I going to get back to the beach house I was staying at. And, that was a low point. It was embarrassing. I'm like, okay, it's a little funny in college, but like you're 26 and you're supposed to have your stuff together. And I didn't. And that was a real wake-up call. It was a low point for me. And soon thereafter, I went to a therapist, and I don't know how I found her, but I met with her, and she, after, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes, said, "You have the symptoms of a chronic alcoholic." And I felt really dirty when she said that. And I'm thinking, okay, you said symptoms. You didn't call me an alcoholic. You said it, the symptoms. And I'm thinking like almost like the Dumber and Dumber movie where so you're saying I have a chance, like, it's like 99.9% chance you're an alcoholic. So I'm like, you're saying I have a chance that I'm not, but, I was smart enough to realize I was, so I remember walking out of her place, just feeling really dirty. And I ended up going to AA meetings on the west side of Manhattan. I was afraid to see people I knew. And one of the biggest challenges was socially, like, everything was centered around drinking. And so I remember going to a big event. It was a black tie event on the west side of Manhattan on the ship called the Intrepid. And I went there, and I was like, okay, I got to order something to make it look like I'm drinking. So I ordered a cranberry juice. That was my drink of choice when I stopped drinking. And so it looked like I had a drink in my hand. But the weird thing about 12 to 1 o'clock, when everyone started getting drunk and I would see them, I was embarrassed for them. And I started to realize that's how I looked. That's how people looked at me. And I think sometimes in a lot of things we do, video would be the great teacher. Like have a GoPro, with a selfie stick when you're going out with people, and when you're getting drunk, and like play that video the next morning and see how proud you are. So I woke up the next morning, no hangover, no headache. I was up till like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock on a Friday night. Next morning, I get up at like 9 o'clock, go for a walk, go get breakfast. I would never have done that before. And I think the thing that hit me is the energy I had. There was an energy now and a passion that I didn't have. And then I made a lot of changes. I got stopped drinking, quit my job, moved to North Carolina, and I'd gotten engaged. And not to my high school girlfriend, but got engaged. And so a lot changed, a lot happened. And all of a sudden I moved to North Carolina, thought I was going to get in a real estate business, got into coaching. And all my energy was put into coaching. I did not end up following through with the marriage at the time. We broke off our engagement. But a lot of great things happened once I stopped drinking. And the energy, the passion I had for coaching and teaching. Again, 11 years later, I'm the head coach at Notre Dame, and that's not happening if I don't stop drinking.
Yeah. I think the part of your story that sticks out most to me is the statement you said, I woke up on the porch of a house that I did not know. And the thing that comes to mind is, some people who are listening to this obviously might not have issues with substance abuse or any sort of bad habit, I guess. I don't know. There might be some lucky person out there. But there's probably, everyone has a moment where they wake up in their own house, but they probably don't recognize it because they're like, when I was a kid, I dreamt of my life being so much different, but yet I've settled and things like that. And I think that's why it's important to listen to stories like yours, not just to relate from a standpoint of whether or not I have had issues similar to yours, but to really realize that we do always have to kind of come to ourselves. We have to realize, like, wait a second, like this life that I'm living might not be ideal. And then you took it one step further and you went and sought help from someone else who probably told you something very uncomfortable to listen to. She said, you are, a chronic alcoholic. And I'm really curious.
I had the symptoms, Justin. I mean, don't
symptoms.
Label me, man. Don't label me. I had the symptoms of a chronic alcoholic.
Right. You had the symptoms. But even still, that is something, I'll be honest, unfortunately, a lot of people in my particular generation might not be so readily, they might not accept such feedback so quickly. And I could see how easy it might be to walk out and be like, oh, that person's crazy. I'll go get a second opinion or whatnot. So how did you have, I guess, the humility to accept that feedback as maybe a possibility and start to work off of that hypothesis?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I don't know, maybe a couple things. My parents, I think they always talked about being humble. I had great parents and a great family, 3 older sisters, younger brother. I always respected authority. I respected education, respected my teachers, my coaches. And I think I didn't realize it, but I was a lifelong learner. I wanted to learn. I didn't realize that until I was about 40, but I like to learn and learn from smart people. And then I think the last thing that comes to mind is when you're a player, like I was coachable, right? I mean, I had good coaches. And when people that I trusted as coaches told me to do something, I did it and I listened to them and I trusted them. And here's this lady who's has certificates on the wall and she's giving me this feedback, like she's probably right. And, with my behavior, it's pretty evident that I've got a problem and I need to address it. So I think that I'm big on self-improvement. Like as a player, like, okay, coach tells you work on your left hand. I'll work on my left hand to the point it's almost stronger than my right. And so I want to get better. I want to get better. I want to get better today. I want to get better as an executive coach. That's what I do now. I want to get better. I want to improve. We can always get better. If you can get 1% better per day over the course of the year, you're going to have a pretty good year. And so when you're dealing with the setbacks and, that's life, man. It's life. And we get caught up, especially in the age of social media, that we see others and we compare ourselves to others. And, someone once said, we're comparing our everyday to someone's highlight film. Mm-hmm. Someone's got a picture, they got an umbrella drink on a boat with in the Caribbean, and we're grinding it out, with our everyday job and maybe not real happy. And so that's the devil's work. I'm a Christian. The devil's good now. The devil is good. I mean, that devil is a good recruiter. And so they get you at this weak moment. They push this stuff in front of you like, man, you could be living like this person. If only you bought a new car. If you bought this new car and took this vacation, you'd feel like this person until you didn't, and then you're in debt. And so, I think that your life is nothing but a series of decisions and dealing with the consequences, and the better decisions you make, the better your life will be. I think discipline is such a huge part, and I've shown great discipline in certain things, like giving up drinking and being in shape and running a 5-minute mile in doing those things. And there's other things I haven't been so disciplined at, and I beat myself up on. I can still eat a sleeve of Oreos in a New York second. But it used to be I drink a six-pack of beer in a New York second. Now I eat a row of Oreos. I think that's a little bit better for me. So I'm headed in the right direction. Yeah. But we're our own worst enemy at times. And in the comparison games, we got to put blinders on. And that's easier said than done. I mean, it's human nature. One of the best things about an athlete, competitive athlete, is you're comparing yourself to others and you want to beat that other person. Mm-hmm. You want to have your team ranked above them. You want to be ranked above them. That's a strength. Weakness is, okay, you're done with your career and that other person has more than you do. They have a bigger house, bigger car, nicer country club, bigger boat, and that can eat at you. And so that's where you have to have the discipline to stay within your means and make decisions that are best for you and your family. And it doesn't mean you can't want nice things, but one of the worst things in the world is debt. And so I've been a big advocate for living a debt-free life. I mean, I talked to my players when I was coaching, like the worst thing you do is get in debt, overextend, and then on top of that, get somebody pregnant before you're ready, and now you're having your decisions were made for you versus you making decisions. Mm-hmm. And Dean Smith would always say, to be a disciplined person is a truly free person. And I never understood that comment as a young man until I got older. And using the example I just said, if you're disciplined and make good decisions and save your money, make wise investments, buy things that you need, not just things you want, and choose your partner wisely, don't have a child before you're ready, then you have the freedom to do some things as opposed to being reckless with your spending and your sexual habits and having children. And now you're at the mercy of your debt, mm-hmm. The law. You're not free. And so that, I think, is one of the biggest keys to happiness is discipline.
Wow. And kind of a quick side note, you'd mentioned the devil. By the way, you are completely free and 100% welcome to talk about religion as much as you want. Just letting you know, just that way.
Well, if I wasn't, then I would stop the show. Yeah. I mean, but if that's, I don't thump the Bible, but I want people to know,
right,
that I am a Christian.
Right.
And someone said, drop breadcrumbs. And if one person listens to this and stops drinking and comes to Jesus, how about that?
Yeah.
So about power.
Right.
And so, having this platform to discuss this stuff is healthy for me. It's therapeutic. And hopefully there's at least one listener that may decide, you know what, I'm going to stop drinking and I need to open up the Bible.
Right.
That would be really cool.
Right. I love that. And actually, on that note, I kind of wanted to ask a question. You mentioned, you'd share some of these principles with your players. I've never been a coach. I've only, been football player, soccer player, things like that. So I wanted to ask, how often as you're coaching, do you, or did you take opportunities to, rather than share lessons on basketball or the specific sport, kind of larger lessons and kind of expand their scope?
Oh man, as much as you could. I mean, every day. I think that's one of the reasons I got into coaching, because that's what Dean Smith did for us. Those life lessons. That's the beautiful thing about sports, especially team sports. It teaches you life lessons that, a lot of other people just don't get, and leadership lessons, overcoming adversity, dealing with success, dealing with failure, teamwork, goal setting. And so the all the time, Coach Smith would talk about, some of the things I always remember that he would say is the discipline thing. A disciplined person's truly a free person. That's from Dean Smith. Dean Smith would teach us grammar and English, because a lot of people say things like, got to go further down the road. And he's like, no, it's not further, it's farther, because FAR deals with distance. So I always remember that, there's all these little nuggets that I try to teach my players about, what's getting ready for the next stage of your life. Because when basketball's over, use basketball to put yourself in position to have a good career, make good decisions with your money, with sex, and put yourself in position to network and shake a good hand and know how to follow up with a handwritten note, because you have this platform as a student athlete that can give you the leg up when it comes time to getting a job. So those are the things that I really enjoyed, teaching besides basketball and how to execute a play.
I think that's rather fascinating, especially because as a coach at a collegiate level, naturally you will have some players who may not go on to a professional level. Their basketball career might end after college, and presumably you'd have to teach both these players / students, as well as the players / students who are continuing on to a professional level, whose career will be basketball for the next however long they play.
Yeah, if they're lucky, 10 to 15 years.
Right. How are you able to kind of meet both of their needs as a coach?
Well, I think that's a job as a parent, as a coach. Everyone you treat fairly, but not the same. So, you have different conversations. You have some general conversations, but then you might have some one-on-one conversations. I know the conversations Dean Smith had with Michael Jordan were probably a little different than the ones he had with me.
Right.
But, there was probably a similar foundation of discipline, making good choices, associating yourself with good people, and managing your money and saving your money. You treat everyone fairly and respectfully, but differently. Yeah, I mean, like Coach Smith would say, it's not there's a reason Michael Jordan got 10 shots a game and I got 2. It's not like whoever has the ball can shoot. It's not a democracy. It's at that point a little bit of a dictatorship, and so you get it. That's life, man. That is life.
As my wife and I don't have kids, but in the next few years we hope to definitely bring some children into this world, and that answer actually inspires me a little bit, because as a kid growing up, I'm the 4th out of 5, as I told you. Naturally, I've seen rules tend to relax towards the 4th, 5th child. Oh, you can have a phone because we bought a family plan and now everyone gets a phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I really like this approach that, you start from the same foundation, but you do have to treat every team member, because essentially a family member is a team member. And this also works in the office, you could say. You have to treat every team member different,
That's right. I mean, if you have a child who has the ability to get straight A's and they don't, you treat them a certain way. You might have a child that's their ceiling is B's or C's. Do you punish them for not getting A's? Or do that's the balance. Coaching and teaching is an art, you have to have feel. And, how do you push without breaking? Well, you better know your children. You better know your players, what they are capable of. And, hey, I think you're capable of better. And then giving them the support, not demeaning them, not breaking them, not embarrassing them. Coach Smith would praise in public and kind of admonish in private for the most part. Unless you had a really bad turnover, or you didn't run back on defense,
right?
Or you blew a defensive assignment, or you missed the box out. But anyway,
with that idea that coaching and teaching is an art, what were your methods, or I guess just natural proclivities, for how you identified each individual player's strengths, weaknesses, and then match them to wherever they might fit best?
Yeah. Well, I don't think I was very good early on in terms of the emotional intelligence part of that, the feel part, because I wanted to treat everybody the same. And I think I had to learn from experience. And I had a hard time, like at Notre Dame. I really enjoyed those kids because they were, they didn't. It was my first head coaching job. I think they were appreciative of things. They were really tougher than I had thought initially. They bought in. They didn't expect to be given things, and they weren't pampered as athletes. And then you coach a higher level, like go to North Carolina, and then you get some players that have been told that, they're all Americans coming in. They've been pampered a little bit. Now you kind of have to deprogram them a little bit, and that's a bit of a challenge. But you have to me, Tom Peters, who's a business guru, talks about, if you can measure it, you can manage it. We measure it. Hey, I'm not, how come I don't get to shoot the ball? Well, look at your stats in practice. You're shooting, 30% from the 3-point line, and he's shooting 40%. I'm giving him the green light. And sometimes you've got to tell it, like say it to the team, in front of the team. I had a kid at SMU, Rob Nakunda. He was one of the best shooters I've ever coached. Rob, in transition or whenever you're open, unless there's less than 30 seconds to go in a half or under 4 minutes with a big lead, you can shoot the ball. Whenever you feel like you're open, you shoot the ball. And don't look at me if you miss it. I don't want you looking over here. Keep shooting the ball. Joey? No. Joey, I don't want you shooting the ball because these are your stats. Shot, fake, pass, dribble into 15 feet. And that's accepting roles. That's teamwork. That's coaching. Now, Joey, you're great at this. I need you on the court because you're the best defender on our team. So how can you couch it without making Joey feel like you're patronizing him? Say, yeah, Joey, you're not, we all know it, you're not the best shooter, but boy, you're the best on-ball defender. So you want your players feeling good. I laugh because I was a McDonald's All-American. I was highly recruited. I wasn't a great college player. I was a very good college player. Started for 3 years on a great North Carolina teams. But I remember Coach Smith coming to me one day. He said, like real enthused, like, you could become the best screener in the country. And I'm like, Coach, I know what, like I'm saying to myself, Coach, I know what you're trying to do. like, yeah, okay, I get it. You know, and as I became a coach, I realized how valuable that role was and how not everyone can do it. I mean, it's a feel thing, but you know, it's not the sexiest thing on the court, right? So I just nodded and I kind of accepted what he was saying. And I joked with my teammates that, you know, I'm the best screener in the country. And when I'd go into a bar or a party and I'd go up to a good looking girl and I'd say, you know, I'm the best. I just might be the best screener in the country. And she'd like look at me and like give me that look and look over my shoulder. And when Michael Jordan would walk in, she'd walk right by me to Michael Jordan. But so I got a kick out of that. But I understood what coach was trying to do. I think you just can't patronize people and insult them. But you have to tell them and tell them in front of their team. Because the team, you know what? Most people know, right? Most people know. And if you're not telling them, then the players or the employees will say he's a weak leader because he's not holding us accountable. He doesn't have the courage to challenge us. Everyone knows who the best shooter is here. Everyone knows who's the biggest producer in the office. And yeah, they get the corner office, they get the parking spot. But you know what? They better have a good team attitude too. You know, they better appreciate the janitor and the managers, and you know, because that's part of our culture.
I'd imagine that kind of ties into what we talked about a little earlier with when you went in to see the therapist and she gave you the hard news. These players have to develop that same sort of humility and realize I am part of a larger unit, a larger corporation, a larger body. You know, maybe I'm the right fist, but we need a left fist. You can't, you know, you can't play basketball effectively without two hands. I mean, you probably could, probably play better than me. I'm not very good. But you mentioned, let's see, where was it?
I think one thing that you're talking about, and I wrote about in my book. I wrote a book, Justin, Rebound from Pain to Passion. Mm-hmm. And what we need in our lives and in this country are truth tellers. And there's so many people that don't want the truth because it offends them or they feel disrespected. I want the truth because if you don't manage the truth will manage you right out the door. So if I can find out the truth, I can fix it before there's a real problem. But if I create an environment where people don't tell me the truth for whatever reason, then I'm living a fantasy world and all of a sudden things are deteriorating underneath me and I'll be out of a position, a job, a role in no time. But if I can mine for the truth and create an environment where people can come to me or there's a channel for them to come deliver a message up the ladder to me, or I shouldn't say up the ladder. I like to invert the org chart. I think the CEO or the head coach should be at the bottom of the org chart. So if I can get that information, now I can support my team better. And sometimes it's as simple as explaining why. Why am I doing this? So I think that that's huge in all lines. I want to know the truth. Why aren't I playing? Well, I don't think you're a good shooter. Okay, I'm going to either work on my shooting or I'll learn not to take those shots. Now, if I don't like what you're saying, I think it's disrespectful, then leave. But now I know what the truth is, and I can deal with the truth. It's the ambiguity of not knowing the truth to give me either false hope or you're lying to me. Tell me the truth.
Yeah, it's like learning how to use a compass and really knowing which way's north. If you don't know which way's north, then the compass isn't useful to you. So
that's right.
Matt, it's been so wonderful having you here on the show. We're coming down to the end of our time here. So let me ask you the last two questions. how can people reach out to you, support you, see what you're up to, and reach out,
Yeah, I have a website, coachmattdoherty.com. Coach Matt Doherty, and that's DOHERTY.com. And I'm on Twitter at Doherty Matt. Again, DOHERTYMATT. Those are the best ways to reach out to me. My email address is coachmattdoherty@gmail.com. I do leadership coaching. I'm executive coaching. I do corporate talks. I have a radio show. I'm a co-host on a guest on Thursdays, WBT and WFNZ in Charlotte. I have a podcast, the Rebound Podcast. That's in process now. We've had some great guests. So, yeah, I really enjoy these topics, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, Justin, to discuss the hard things, because the world is full of them. And so you've got to learn how to deal with them in a constructive, positive way. And when you overcome the hard things, it's really rewarding.
Agreed. And actually, on that note, I think it's fitting that we leave our audience some action items based on some of the things we talked about. So the two that really stuck out to me were, one, learn to take truth, learn to listen to truth without being offended. And number two is to work on disciplining yourself, whether to stop something that you don't like doing or start something that you know will be really good for you. Would you like to add to that list at all?
Yeah, I think the first thing, you got to thank people. Thank people when they tell you the truth. It might hurt. You say, listen, that's a gift you just gave me. And I know it's not easy to do, but boy, you just made me better today. Thank you. Excuse me. And then the other thing is, I'm big on writing things down. I still use a day planner, the Franklin planner, which was, I think, based in Salt Lake City for a long time.
From Franklin Covey, right?
Yep. And, I remember there were certain things that I wanted to do and accomplish. And it really starts with paper and a pen. What do you want to do? Well, I want to get out of debt. Do you really want to get out of debt? What do you want to do? I want a better job. Do you really want a better job? What are you going to do to change to get those better jobs? How about taking a class? How about instead of watching 3 hours of Netflix at night, you take an online class? How about instead of eating, a whole pizza and a 6-pack of beer on a Friday night, you drink water and go eat a salad and go for a 30-minute walk. My sister just lost over 108 pounds. Yeah,
Wow.
108 pounds. Takes discipline. It's just a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a choice. You have the power to choose. You have the power to choose what you eat, what you spend your money on, how you spend your day. Choose wisely.
Awesome. I will put all of that up in the show notes. But again, thank you so much, Matt. It's been a delight having you on the show. I'm not gonna keep you much longer. I'll send you my follow-up questions in an email. But thank you for being on the Hard Thing podcast.
Yeah, man. Thank you, Justin. Appreciate you.
Take care.
All right.
Have a good one.
You too.
What did I tell you? What a great episode today. It was fun talking with Matt and getting his perspective on many things. I think each of us will at one point in our life become a leader. If nothing else, a leader in our own family. And to do that, you have to be able to assess the unique strengths and weaknesses within each person and then move them into the right position so that they have what they need to succeed. So make sure you guys put into practice the action items given to us today. Also, again, reach out to us on Instagram at The Hard Thing Podcast. Send us your suggestions for the podcast. Also, let us know what hard things you're dealing with. I'd love to be able to help you guys somehow. So thank you guys for listening to today's show. I really can't be here without you guys. So come back next week. We have another awesome show. And in the meantime, share the show with someone you know so that way we can get better content for you guys, people who've done even harder things, and just help improve your life. So we'll see you guys next week. Until then, keep doing hard things, my friends, because you will overcome average.